Alrighty, folks, the Bloomberg article is out. Jason Schrier has interviewed the developers of Hollow Knight Silksong, Team Cherry, and we finally have answers to all of our burning questions about what has taken so long with this game. So what has taken so long? Why was it so long? And what happened? Were they burnt out? Was it just a problem? Was there COVID? What went wrong? Well, turns out they've just been having a grand old time. They have just literally been doing nothing but enjoying themselves in this entire process. And here is the quote from Ari Gibson, one of the co-founders of Team Cherry. He says, "We've just been having fun. This whole thing is just a vehicle for our creativity anyways. It's nice to make fun things." Schrier writes that the lengthy production wasn't the result of development challenges or obstacles. They just needed all these years to ensure that Silksong was exactly the game they wanted to make. And here's what Ari Gibson had to say. "It was never stuck or anything. It was always progressing. It's just the case that we're a small team and games take a long time. There wasn't any big controversial moment behind it." There was nothing. Nothing was wrong. There wasn't any development issues. There wasn't any sort of weird company dispute. There was nothing. It was simply them deciding they were going to take as long as they wanted to make the game exactly how they wanted to make it. And that is a very, very hard thing to ask of any developers nowadays. Why? Because people get excited. That's all there is to it. People get so unbelievably excited for this, and the developers can feed off of that excitement, and they can want to rush products out or just get crushed under the weight of that pressure. And they didn't. They didn't at all. They didn't even know that pressure fully existed because they stayed offline. Jason Schrier writes, "The Silksong saga started in 2017 when Team Cherry released Hollow Knight, an action platformer set in a vast world full of cartoon bugs. A Switch version released the following year, adding to that momentum, and by the end of 2018, millions of fans were raving about its polished gameplay, distinct style, and impeccable vibes. As of today, the game has sold over 15 million copies. Team Cherry told him, making it one of the most successful indie games ever." Silksong was initially supposed to be DLC for Hollow Knight. I've talked about that quite a bit on this channel. Hollow Knight was a huge success on the Switch and of course on all these other platforms, so then Silksong was going to be one of the highly anticipated releases for that early Nintendo Switch lifecycle because it was announced for the Switch back in 2019. Because they decided to shift from it just being DLC to it being its own thing, they probably had a lot of differing ideas as to how long it was going to take to develop the game, and this is what Ari Gibson had to say about that. Even at that point, we were recognizing that it was going to become another giant thing to rival the scale of Hollow Knight or probably exceed it. And then, just because of how we work, obviously the world ended up being just as big or bigger. And the quest system existed, and the multiple towns existed. Suddenly, you end up 6-7 years later. Quite possibly the funniest part of all of this is that the Silksong and Hollow Knight community have been going absolutely insane for the last 7 years. I mean, we have been going crazy. People have lost their minds, truly lost their minds. Every presentation that could have ever come up for any of these platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, like literally anything you could ever announce a video game at, people were saying, Silksong, it's going to be Silksong. And it went crazy. We all went crazy. And the entire time, Team Cherry is just plugging away, just having a grand old time. They are just having fun developing this game. They're just not even caring, not thinking about anyone's expectations. And of course, it is an amazing thing when people finally are able to find their groove and love what they do. That's something that people say forever is what you should do with your life. Find something you love to do. Make it to where work isn't work. Love your work. Love what you do. And that is what Team Cherry does. That's what they did. Here we have another quote from Ari Gibson. "We're very fortunate that we have a development method that is so enjoyable. Not exactly sure how we stumbled into that. Everything comes together quickly. You can see results fast. Ideas turn into something that exists in the game almost immediately before your eyes, and that's very satisfying. And that allows you to go off on those tangents and meet weird characters because someone's offhandedly mentioned a weird character as an idea, and the other person's laughed, and that's enough." And it's so funny to me because Jason must have gone into this interview thinking, man, I am going to get some great news here. Whatever they have to say, it could be anything. Whatever they have to say is going to be amazing. I'm going to get the biggest scoop ever with this team. What are they going to say? What happened? What is taking so long? And he goes into it expecting something, maybe thinking about it like, oh, what's going to happen? And then they just say he's having a good time. They're just literally having fun and not thinking about anything and not trying to set expectations or mismanage expectations in any way. They're just doing what they want to do. And I'm sure Jason was like, what? What do you mean there's no drama? What do you mean you guys didn't have a big fight or COVID didn't screw you over or anything? Like, you're just having fun? What? Now, one of the best parts about Hollow Knight and Silksong is that everything that you see was initially hand-drawn first. This is a hand-drawn art style, and they take ideas for their characters, they draw them down, and then they put them into games and animate them and use it inside the actual video game itself. And so Ari Gibson was just continuing to have a blast with this. He says, I remember at some point, I just had to stop sketching because I went, everything I'm drawing here has to end up in the game. That's a cool idea. That's in. That's a cool idea. That's in. You realize, if I don't stop drawing, this is going to take 15 years to finish. Then William Pellin said, you're always working on a new idea, new item, new area, new boss. That stuff's so nice. It's for the sake of just completing the game that we're stopping. We could have kept going. This is what gets me. This is what is so unbelievably funny, is that they could have just kept doing this forever and ever. Like, they were having a great time, and that is one of the best things that you want to hear as a fan. And that's what people always claim that they want to hear from developers. They want developers to take their time and to have fun and to do what they want to do. And then a game like Silksong comes along where developers actually do that, and the fan base goes rabid. They go insane. They just want a release date. They want the game to come out, and they stop saying all of these things that sound so good out loud because they don't truly mean it. No one truly means that they want them to take as long as they want, because as long as they want can take 7 years sometimes, and that's exactly what happened with Silksong. And let me tell you, you guys are going to love it. Every single person who was clowning on Silksong and saying it's never coming out and it was canceled and went absolutely crazy on this game is going to love every aspect of Silksong, and they're going to only love it because it took as long as it did. The developers took their time, and that's all you could ask for as a fan. So that's one burning question answered. Why did it take so long? Because they were just having a blast. They were just like kids in a candy store, loving what they were doing, loving what they were creating, and they just can't wait to keep making more content, right? So the next burning question is probably the most potent. Why have you not talked to us at all, Team Cherry? Why have you given us zero communication over the years? You went radio silent. What is up with that? Well, in my opinion, this answer isn't very good, but they say we felt like continued updates were just going to sour people on the whole thing, because all we could really say is, we're still working on it. William Pelham said, instead of popping up and bugging people for the sake of it, it felt like our actual responsibility was just to work on the game. Probably at the time, we thought we'd go quiet for a year or two, then the game would come out. They wanted to be very cautious about spoilers. They didn't want to give us too much information because one of the biggest parts of Hollow Knight was just finding everything, was finding new mechanics, new abilities, new areas, and discovering everything on your own. And it was only possible to do that because there wasn't a huge microscope on the game at the time. But Silksong has the biggest of microscopes on it. And of course, they also thought that this game was going to come out a lot sooner than it did. Even though they said that they could have kept working for years and years and years, they also kept thinking to themselves, oh, just one more year, right? It's only going to take one more year. Because of course, there was that big Xbox announcement back in 2022 saying that the game would be out within the next year, so by that next June. And of course, we know that did not end up happening. It ended up taking 3 more years for this game to come out. And at the time, they thought it was all true, Schrier writes. And Pellin said, we did genuinely believe that was the case. There was a period of 2 to 3 years when I thought it was going to come out within a year. Now, the fact that they enjoyed development is all well and good. That is amazing. But the development period lasted for such a long time, so it was very interesting to think, what were they doing? What was in their heads? Were they having any sort of problems with pressure? Well, the longer development lasted, the more pressure Gibson and Pellin felt to ensure that everything was as fine-tuned as possible. They'd already spent 4 years on it at that point. Why would they rush now? The more time they spent polishing some parts, the more time they needed to apply it consistently across the rest. That makes more sense than any other reason I could think of. Coming off of this whole enjoyment talk, talking about how they really just love developing it, that's a little bit weird, right? You wouldn't expect that. You're just kind of like, oh, that's it? At least that was my reaction, right? And I'm sure that was Jason's reaction when he was hearing all this. So it makes so much more sense for them to be like, you know what? We're enjoying ourselves. And we're not going to rush it because at this point it's been so long, we might as well just do everything we want to do to finish up this game. And that's exactly what people have been saying they should do, and people have been clamoring for that. Like, just take your time. And they actually took their time. They did exactly what they wanted to do with this game, and that means it's going to be better for it. The article continues to go on to explain other reasons as to why they might have wanted to rush, but they decided not to, and one of those reasons was money. Hollow Knight sold 15 million copies. And back in February 2019, the game had only sold 2.8 million copies. So since then, it's sold over 12 million. I don't know if you guys realize how abnormal that is for a game to not only keep selling 2 years past its initial release, but to double, triple, quadruple its initial sales number. That is just, it's unheard of. It is absolutely unheard of. It's simply unprecedented. And that kept money in their pockets to where they didn't have to worry about providing for their families or paying the bills or keeping themselves fed. They could just work as long as they wanted to, and they kept getting that income because, to be honest, and this article doesn't talk about this part here, but I think personally the hype for Silksong kept Hollow Knight selling. People continuously talking about Silksong, Silksong, Silksong. People were buying Hollow Knight because they were like, what in the world are all these fans getting at? And now 15 million people know what those fans were initially getting at. Now, you hear from athletes and celebrities and actors and everything all the time about how, oh, I never go online, right? I tune out the noise. I don't look at any of that stuff, right? But with indie developers, they're not trained to do that. They're not, like, these are just regular people that decided they were going to make a game, and that game hit unprecedented levels of success across the entire industry. So were they really keeping to themselves? Were they really unaware of all the pressure that was being put on them, of all the millions of people who were clamoring for a release date for this game to come out? Jason Schrier writes, Gibson and Pellin tuned it all out, rarely going online. They say they never read comments on YouTube or Reddit, although occasionally friends or family would send them some of the funniest ones. Gibson then said, it's nice that people are passionate about the game, and they've obviously formed their own strange or very exciting communities about it. And Pellin probably has the best line in this entire article. He says, feels like we're going to ruin their fun by releasing the game. And to be honest, he's kinda right. I mean, we've all gone crazy for so long, speculating and breaking down and analyzing and wondering and questioning, and now the game is just about to be out. 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks. We will have Hollow Knight Silksong in our hands, and it almost is like, I don't know what to do with it, and I'm sure the rest of the Silksong community feels the same way. Of course, there's excitement because we're finally getting what we've wanted after all these years, but there's kind of a hole there, isn't it? Like, this game's gonna come out and we're gonna analyze it and it's gonna be such a great time and everyone's gonna love it, but it's still just like, wow, something's gonna be lost. We're not gonna have that void filled anymore. It's just gonna be empty, and people are gonna stop going crazy and stop talking about it, and we're all just gonna move on to the next thing. So in a way, Pellin's right. We're kind of losing out on the fun here of just speculating and sticking together forever. There is something incredibly valuable about having a community of people who are all going through something together. And, you know, going through it is us not having a game or knowing anything about it, sure, but it's silly. But it still feels special in a way to be like, wow, this community is finally getting what they want. So what are we going to do with it? What's coming next, right? Well, Jason Schrier writes, Gibson and Pellin say they're happy that the game is finally coming out, and even happier that they will get to keep working on it, which they still find enjoyable after 7 years. They haven't burned out or shown any desire to take a break. Instead, they're already making big plans to add extra content to Silksong in the months and years to come. Pellin says launching it is obviously quite exciting. What comes after for us is equally as exciting. And R. Gibson, to finish off the article, says, the most interesting thing now is what can we add to it next? We got a plan. Admittedly, some of the plans for that stuff are kind of ambitious as well, but hopefully we can achieve some of it. So what's next? More Silksong, more Silksong, more Silksong, more Silksong, and that's exactly what they did with Hollow Knight. The game released, they kept updating it, they kept adding to it, entire areas, entire enemies. The DLC kept coming and coming, especially after the Nintendo Switch got this game. Oh my goodness, that launched it to the stratosphere. And then Hornet DLC, right? There was going to be Hornet DLC. Well, that turned into Silksong. And so Silksong was developed and developed and developed, and it's got its own quest system, and it's going to be different than Hollow Knight and bigger and better. And this game's going to get DLC too. And they're probably going to add entire areas, entire enemies, maybe even a new playable character. And then, that playable character probably doesn't fit super well into this world. Let's make a game about that character. And then we have ourselves a brand new game. But that is just speculation on my part. I don't know if they're going to want to continue with the Hollow Knight series or if they're going to want to make another game. They're just going to have to see what comes of their plans, right? And of course, this team is as small as ever. They did not add anybody. They didn't add a ton of people. They didn't want to have to manage big teams because they'd done that in the past, and they just wanted to continue with the workflow how it was because it's fun and because they love doing it. And as long as they love doing it, they're going to make a product that is enjoyable. Now we know. Now we know what took so long. Now we know why they didn't talk to us, why they didn't communicate to us. We know when the date is coming. We know when this game is coming. September 4th, 2 weeks from now, this game will be in our hands. And that's that. And they're going to continue developing for this game. They're going to add and add and add as much as they want. And maybe it will take years. And maybe they'll decide to develop something else. Or maybe they'll decide to develop another Hollow Knight game. All I know is it's finally coming to an end. This game will be in our hands September 4th, and they're going to continue adding to it, and we're going to continue waiting for it, and I am sure there will be even more years of content to look forward to with this game. Here now is my reactions to the brand new trailer. Oh, it's beautiful. We've been waiting for so freaking long. Gosh. This game looks so good, dude. The environments look so much better. Ascend. This game is so gorgeous. They have spent so much time on this. A lot of this looks like it's footage we've already seen, to be honest. I mean, I have done deep dives into this footage. Wow, the map. First look at the map. Okay. Man, that lace mechanic is going to be so interesting. Oh my gosh. Whoa, a cutscene. Ooh, a cutscene. What is she looking at? The door was opening. World. Handcrafted world. I always forget that, man. They did all this from scratch. Oh man, what a beautiful game. 200 foes. Team Cherry. Y'all continue to outdo yourself. 40 bosses. Whoa, she can glide. What is that? Oh, yes, there's that guy again. Restore Kingdom's Hope. Yeah, it's the fast travel creature. Ooh. She's like, I ain't kissing you, sucker. Silksong. When's it coming? Come on. Tell us, please. Please. A date. September 4th. September 4th. Woo! Yeah! We won! We won indeed, friends. We all win when Silksong releases on September 4th. So that was my breakdown of every single thing in this interview. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Could you please like this video and subscribe if you enjoyed it? It really does help out the channel. Click that notification bell to know exactly when I upload all of my videos just like this one, and consider joining my membership program. Just a couple bucks a month to help support my channel. Thank you so much. You make sure you have yourself a phenomenal day. Click on the left side of your screen if you want to see my initial Silksong video releasing, talking about all of this stuff. And click on the right side of your screen if you want to see my video talking about Sakurai and Kirby Air Riders. Once again, have a phenomenal day. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I will see you all in the next video.